So let's go back to our timeline, and I've already got my media imported, so you can see I've got several different folders with different files inside of it. And I want to start talking about the editorial workflow inside of Smoke. And as I mentioned, if you're coming from Final Cut Pro 7 or Media Composer, you're going to feel right at home. In fact, the default hotkeys for all your editorial workflow inside of Smoke 2013 is based on the Final Cut Pro 7 editorial hotkeys. So your in and outs, your playback, your JKL, your insert, your override, all of that's exactly what you already know. Even more powerful is the ability to customize and change all the shortcut hotkeys as to how you want to work inside of Smoke. Now, of course, if you're an experienced Smoke user, your hotkeys and shortcuts that you're accustomed to using are all still here. Okay, so as I said, let's start doing our editing. I've got a sequence open here. There's nothing in my sequence. I've got several folders with different media. If I navigate into this one called Street Edit, you'll see I've got 4 different clips of the same scene. This is very typical. We've got different angles of the shot. We want to start creating the creative edit. So what are we going to do? We've got a clip of the couple coming out here. So this is the opening scene in the film that we just watched. The couple's coming out from inside the doorway. We've got another shot, the same scene, but of course the camera's now focused on the main talent, the guy. We have the female now, the main female talent. She's over in this shot here. And there's a secondary shot of the talent of the guy. So we're going to go back to our first clip. We're going to hit the L key, hit the I key to create an in point.
I was wrong.
O for our out point. So I set my in and outs. Looking over here on the UI, we've got our insert, our overwrite, our replace. There's also a flyout with other editorial tasks that you can access, such as fit to fill, replace media, and so on. In this case, I'm just going to drag it right from my media browser, my media library, and drop it right into my timeline. So now my in and outs have been set, my clip's been brought in.
I was wrong.
I can use my arrow keys as you typically would to navigate, adding more modifier keys, jumping 10 frames at a time, going to the first cut, that last cut, and so on. So let's go to the next shot where the camera's focusing on the female talent, and I'll hit my L key.
This isn't working.
I was wrong.
I can't do this. You walked out. You left me.
Hit the O key, stop my playback. I'll just drag right from the player and drop it in. So now I've inserted this clip into the timeline. And let's continue to add more clips. If we go through, we go back to the shot of the talent of the guy. So let me go to the last frame here. I'll come back in my screen. I'll scrub, hit the play.
I can't do this anymore.
Wait to hear what she says.
You left me.
Hit the in. He leans forward, walks closer, gives her a hug. I'll hit the O key just as he starts to hug her. Okay, perfect. Let's just drag that into our sequence again. Maybe over here, we want to have the camera switch over to look at her again. So what you do, we go back to this clip. I'll scrub to where I want the in point, hit the I key, then I'll hit L to start the playback. I'll hit the O key to set my out point. And then I'll move my current frame indicator to the position where I want to create the overwrite edit. And then I'll use a hotkey again to edit this clip into the timeline. Play that back. Okay, great. Now let's go over here. If I start playing back this,
I was wrong.
where he says he was wrong, I want to have a close-up of him. So let's go back to the clip that's focusing on our male talent. If I start my playback, so right there, just as he starts to talk, I want to overwrite these frames into my timeline. So I'll just navigate back to right before he starts to talk. I'll set my in and outs, and I'll hit a hotkey to overwrite that into the sequence. So we'll come back and play that back.
I was wrong.
I can't do this.
Okay, great. So now we've got some of our creative edit work done. We want to really start fine-tuning this to help tell our story. If I zoom in here, we start to scrub this back. I actually did a pretty decent job of lining up the audio from the original track to the one I just edited in there.
I was wrong.
If I needed to fine-tune it, though, it's easy enough to do. Let's zoom back a little bit. Now with Ripple on, if I start to make adjustments to this, we can alter and change the edit.
Wrong.
If I turn Ripple off, I'm going to get a different result. Now in this case, I don't want the audio and the video to be linked. So let me undo that. I'll turn off the link option. And now as I trim the video track, track 1, I'm not going to be affecting my audio track.
I was wrong.
Let me turn Ripple back on and turn link back on. I'll play that back, and now I can just do a quick edit of this to really start fine-tuning this.
I can't do this. You walked out. You left me.
Now let's say we want to access the trim view to really fine-tune this editorial work that we're doing here. What's great is to access the trim view, yes, I can choose it from this flyout, or I can go and use a hotkey. But what I like is just double click on a trim and you step right into the trim view. Now I can set the pre and post roll. How many frames do I want to loop through this edit point? If I click the play button,
You left me.
I can start using hotkeys
You
to
left
alter and change my cut point and edit
You
this
left me.
while it's looping through. Now I can really
left
get a
me.
feel for exactly what this
You left
edit
me.
is doing for my story. If I stop my playback, of course I can go down into this timeline sequence area and start working on my edit this way, or come right up into the view and start to create the edit and make adjustments. From here, bring my cursor on either side of it, and then we've got some default buttons for -5 frames, -1 frame, +5 frames, and so on to navigate and control this. And again, depending upon if Ripple is on and off, we'll get a different result. If I want to edit these clips inside the timeline as so. And once I'm happy with this cut, I'll just use the go to next cut arrow and we can jump and we can start working on the next trim. And when I want to get out of the trim view, I just click down into my sequence area and I'm back looking at my two source view and I can play back my creative edit that I'm working on and finesse and fine tune it further if needed.
This isn't working.
I was wrong.
I can't do this. You walked out. You left me.
So as you can see, all the editorial workflow that you already know is available to you right here in Smoke, including, as I said, the shortcuts, which are based on the Final Cut Pro 7 for doing dynamic editing, insert overrides, and so on. All right, so let's move on now to start discussing the tool set that's available, going beyond just editing inside of Smoke. So let me go over to my media library and I'll open up another sequence I have where all the creative editorial work is done.